That morning, no one expected a single act of defiance to change military history. What began as routine training became a moment every soldier on base would remember, and one that would test the difference between following orders and doing what's right. The sun hung low over the Sonoran Desert, casting long shadows across the Border Patrol outpost near Nogales, Arizona. Dust swirled in lazy eddies as a convoy of Humvees rumbled to a halt, their engines cutting off with a synchronized growl. Lieutenant Marcus Hale stepped out first, his boots crunching on the gravel-strewn lot. At 34, Hale was a seasoned SEAL handler, his frame lean and unyielding from years of deployments in the Middle East and Pacific. His uniform, desert camouflage fatigues, sleeves rolled to the elbows, bore the faint scars of salt from ocean swims and sand from endless patrols. But it was the dog at his side that drew the eyes of the border agents milling nearby. Rex, a Belgian Malinois with a coat the color of burnished copper, sat at perfect heel, his ears pricked forward, black eyes scanning the horizon. At 7 years old, Rex had logged more hours in hostile zones than most agents here had in their careers. The bond between them was unspoken, forged in the dim holds of Black Hawks and the quiet hours of stakeouts. Hale's hand rested lightly on the dog's harness, a ritual of reassurance amid the unfamiliar terrain. "LT Hale, welcome to the line," said Agent Ramirez, extending a gloved hand. He was a stocky veteran with 15 years on the border, his face weathered by wind and vigilance. The outpost was a squat concrete bunker ringed by chain-link fencing, topped with razor wire that glinted in the dawn light. Radios crackled faintly from the command shack, voices overlapping in clipped reports, positions, sightings, clearances. This was Joint Ops Week, SEAL K-9 teams rotating in to bolster border security, sharing tactics with customs and border protection. Routine by the book. Hale nodded, his response measured. "Appreciate the assist, Agent. We're here to integrate our handlers with your sweeps. Rex has a nose for the unconventional." Ramirez glanced down at the dog, who hadn't moved a muscle. "Heard your unit's got the best. We've got a stretch of wall up ahead, 10 miles of it. Sensors, cameras, the works, but things slip through. Always do." The group moved out as the sky lightened to pale gold. Hale walked Rex on a loose lead, the dog's paws padding silently over the packed earth. Other handlers from his team, Petty Officer Lena Torres with her German Shepherd Jax, and Chief Petty Officer Elias Grant with a sleek Labrador named Scout, flanked them, their animals in tight formation. The air smelled of creosote bushes and distant rain, carried on a breeze that tugged at the flags snapping above the outpost. Hale's mind ticked through the briefing packet. Mock intercepts, scent training along the barrier, coordination drills. No live threats expected, just the grind of protocol. They reached the wall by 0630 hours. It rose like a scar across the landscape, steel slats bolted into the earth, 18 feet high, stretching east and west until it blurred into the haze. Drones hummed overhead, their rotors a faint buzz, while agents in tactical vests patrolled the access road on ATVs. Hale unclipped Rex's lead for the first exercise, a standard perimeter search. The dog moved with economical grace, nose low to the ground, weaving between concrete bollards and scrub brush. Hale followed at a measured pace, his voice low and steady. "Seek, Rex, seek out." The dog's tail flicked once, a signal of focus. He quartered the area methodically, pausing at a discarded water bottle half buried in sand, then dismissing it with a snort. Torres and Grant ran parallel sweeps with their dogs, the team forming a loose chain along the barrier. Agents observed from a distance, notebooks in hand, jotting notes on integration potential. Ramirez radioed in, "All clear on Sector 3, proceed to Phase 2. Hale felt the familiar rhythm settle in, the pulse of mission, the trust in his partner. Rex had saved his life twice. Once in a Taliban compound, alerting to an IED before the squad breached. Again, off the Somali coast, detecting explosives on a dhow. Here, it was different. No insurgents, no swells crashing against the hull. Just the wall, a symbol of division, and the quiet duty of vigilance. Hale adjusted his cap against the rising heat, watching Rex work. Then, without warning, Rex froze. It was midway through the second pass, near a section of wall pocked by repair patches from years of erosion. The dog halted abruptly, one paw lifted, his body rigid as a statue. His nose quivered, drawing in scents the wind carried from the Mexican side, faint, layered, elusive. Hale stopped short, his hand instinctively going to the leash. "Rex, what you got?" The dog didn't budge. No alert bark, no frantic digging, just that unyielding stance, eyes locked on a seam in the barrier where slats met concrete base. Agents nearby paused their chatter, turning to watch. Ramirez approached, brow furrowed. "False positive? We've scanned that spot 100 times. Hale knelt beside Rex, running a gloved hand along the dog's flank. The Malinois' muscles were taut, his breathing shallow and deliberate. This wasn't a drill response. It was instinct, honed sharper than any machine. "He's locked on. Let me run the protocol." But as Hale reached for his detection kit, a portable vapor sampler and swab tools, a voice cut through the morning calm. It was Supervisory Agent Harlan, a broad-shouldered man with a clipboard and a no-nonsense stare, striding from the command vehicle. Harlan oversaw the outpost, his authority absolute in this sector. "Hale, stand down. That's a reinforced panel. Engineering cleared it last quarter. Your dog's gears calibrated for war zones, not our routine." Hale rose slowly, meeting the agent's gaze. Rex remained frozen, a low whine escaping his throat, the first sound he'd made. The team watched, the air thickening with unspoken tension. Torres murmured to Jax, keeping him steady, while Grant's Labrador paced uneasily. The wall loomed behind them, indifferent to the standoff. "With respect, sir," Hale said evenly, his voice carrying the discipline of command chains he'd navigated for a decade. "Rex doesn't glitch. If he's alerting, we check it." Harlan's eyes narrowed, the clipboard tapping against his thigh. Radios hissed in the background, a patrol calling in from the east. The desert wind picked up, whispering through the slats, carrying the faint, acrid tang of something buried deep. Harlan hesitated, then shook his head. "Protocol says agents handle anomalies. SEALs observe. Pull him off, Lieutenant. That's an order." Hale's jaw tightened, his hand still on Rex's harness. The dog didn't flinch, didn't yield. In that moment, the routine fractured, the bond between man and animal clashing against the weight of bureaucracy. The agents shifted, waiting. Hale knew the chain. Obey, document, move on. But Rex's stare bored into the wall, unblinking, as if he alone understood the secret it guarded. The lieutenant paused, the decision hanging like the heat shimmer on the horizon. Duty pulled one way, conscience and the loyalty he'd sworn to his partner tugged the other. The outpost's eyes were on him now, the first ripple in what would become a reckoning. Hale's fingers tightened on Rex's harness, the leather warm from the dog's body heat. The desert air pressed in, heavy with the scent of sun-baked metal and dry sage. Around them, the agents formed a loose semicircle, their boots scuffing the gravel as they exchanged glances. Harlan stood firm, his posture a wall of authority, the clipboard now held like a shield. The hum of a distant drone faded into silence, leaving only the faint crackle of radios and the dog's steady breathing. "Sir," Hale said, his tone level, eyes never leaving Harlan's. "Permission to verify. A secondary scan takes 2 minutes. If it's clear, we log it and proceed." Harlan's face hardened, the lines around his mouth deepening. He'd seen handlers before, eager types from other branches, pushing their tech like it was infallible. But this was his sector, his protocols. The wall's integrity was his responsibility, vetted by engineers from Tucson HQ. A false alert here could mean reallocating resources, pulling agents from active patrols. I said, "Stand down, Lieutenant. Your team's here as guests. We don't upend ops on a hunch." Torres shifted beside her shepherd, Jax sitting alert but silent. She caught Hale's eye, a subtle nod of support, but said nothing. Grant kept Scout heeled, his expression neutral. The discipline of their SEAL training holding the line. Rex, though, remained locked, his paw still raised, nostrils flaring as if drawing in a thread of scent too faint for human senses. Hale felt the pull, the years of trust, the lives Rex had preserved. Obeying meant dismissing that bond. Defying meant challenging the chain, here on foreign ground. The lieutenant exhaled slowly, weighing the moment. In the teams, you'd adapt, improvise, but always within command. This wasn't a raid, it was bureaucracy, layered like the wall itself. "Understood, sir, but for the record, Rex's hit rate is 98% in controlled tests, dismissing it without cause." Harlan cut him off with a raised hand. "Record noted. Ramirez, escort the SEAL team back to the outpost. Debrief at 0800. We'll review footage later." He turned on his heel, barking into his radio. "Command, this is Harlan. Alert on Sector 4 Alpha Negative. Resume standard sweeps." As the agents dispersed, Ramirez clapped Hale on the shoulder, his voice low. "Tough call, LT. Harlan's by the book. Seen him shut down bigger pushes. Your dog's impressive, though. Ever think about loaning him out?" Hale managed a tight smile, clipping the lead to Rex's collar. "He's not for loan. Come on, boy." The dog resisted for a beat, muscles quivering, before yielding to the tug. Hale led him away, the team's boots falling into rhythm on the access road. The wall receded behind them, its slats casting striped shadows that seemed to mock the interruption. Torres fell in step, her voice a murmur. "You think he smelled something real?" "Always does," Hale replied, keeping his eyes forward. The sun climbed higher, turning the air thick and shimmering. Back at the outpost, they secured the dogs in the shaded kennel pens, wire enclosures with water bowls and chew toys, a far cry from the open bays on Coronado. Rex paced once, then settled, his gaze drifting toward the horizon. Hale ran a hand over his ears, feeling the rapid pulse beneath the fur. "Good work, partner. We'll sort it." The morning briefing dragged under the fluorescent hum of the command shack. Harlan presided from a folding table, cluttered with maps and laptops, his tone clipped as he outlined the day's rotations. SEAL integration focuses on observation. Your K9s shadow our agents, no independent runs. "Questions?" Grant raised a hand. "Sir, on the alert, standard procedure calls for a joint verify if a dog locks." Harlan's eyes flicked to Hale. "Procedure applies to CBP handlers. Your unit's calibrated differently. End of discussion." The room fell quiet, the weight of hierarchy settling like dust. Outside, ATVs revved, heading out for the next sweep. Hale nodded once, piling the exchange away. Loyalty to Rex meant patience now, not confrontation. By midday, the heat wave hit, forcing a break in the mess tent. Plastic chairs scraped on concrete as the joint team grabbed MREs, beef stew packets and electrolyte tabs. Ramirez joined Hale at a corner table, wiping sweat from his brow. "Heard about your dog's service record. Somalia right. Pulled a team from a hot LZ." Hale tore open his packet, the steam rising in the stifling air. "Yeah, Rex doesn't miss much. That spot on the wall, it's held sense before." Ramirez shrugged, glancing toward the door where Harlan conferred with engineers via satellite link. Patched section, like a dozen others. Erosion from floods last year. Scanned for voids, contraband, nothing but dogs. They pick up history, don't they? Old trails, buried stuff. Hale chewed thoughtfully, the savory bite grounding him. History. The border wasn't just steel, it was layers. Migrants, smugglers, forgotten caches from decades past. Rex's alert lingered in his mind, a quiet insistence. After lunch, as the team prepped for afternoon drills, Hale slipped away to the kennel. The dogs perked up at his approach, tails thumping softly. He knelt by Rex, pulling a tennis ball from his pocket, a reward deferred. "You tell me, boy, what was it?" The Malinois leaned in, nose bumping Hale's knee, his eyes clear and unwavering. No bark, just that steady trust. Hale scratched behind his ears, the gesture automatic, born of countless nights in foxholes. Outside, the wind carried faint echoes of patrols, but here the bond held its own command. Word spread through the outpost by evening chow, whispers among agents about the seal dog that wouldn't yield. In the ready room, as Hale reviewed integration logs by lamplight, Torres approached, her tablet glowing with sensor data. Pulled this from public archives, that wall section, built in 08, reinforced in 14 after a breach. No major incident since. Hale scanned the screen, the coordinates matching Rex's lock point. And before? Quiet. But pre-wall, it was smuggling route central. Tunnels, drops. Could be residual. He closed the tablet, the decision crystallizing. Protocol bound them, but conscience, Rex's unerring instinct, demanded more. Harlan's order stood, but Hale knew the chain allowed appeals, quiet channels up the line. As night fell, stars pricking the black sky above the outpost, he radioed his CO back at base. "Request advisory on cross-agency alert protocol. Non-urgent." The response came terse. "Document and observe. Escalate if pattern emerges." Hale signed off, staring at the radio's glow. The desert cooled, a chill seeping through the tent flaps. Rex curled at his feet, a warm weight against the uncertainty. The Defiance hadn't broken surface yet, but it simmered, testing the edges of duty. Tomorrow's sweeps would bring them back to the wall, and Hale resolved, if Rex locked again, he'd push, respectfully, procedurally, for the truth buried there. In the quiet hours, as generators hummed and sentries paced, the outpost held its breath. The single act was unfolding, loyalty clashing with order, the dog's nose pointing toward a secret 10 years dormant. Hale lay on his cot, hand resting near Rex, the rhythm of the dog's breathing a reminder. Some bonds outranked even the wall. The next dawn broke with the precision of a watch, the sky bleeding pink over the jagged silhouette of the border wall. Hale rose before reveille, the cot creaking under his weight as he checked Rex's vitals by flashlight, pulse steady, eyes clear. The Malinois stirred, stretching with a soft huff, his coat still carrying the faint dust of yesterday's sweep. Outside the tent, the outpost stirred, generators coughing to life. The metallic tang of coffee brewing in the mess and the low murmur of agents prepping gear. Hale clipped on Rex's harness, the ritual grounding him amid the unresolved tension. Harlan's order lingered like a shadow, but the chain of command allowed for persistence, documented, measured, unyielding. By 0530, the joint team assembled at the access road, dew slicking the gravel underfoot. Torres adjusted Jax's vest, her fingers deft from years of tandem dives in the Pacific, while Grant ran a quick obedience drill with Scout, the Labrador responding with crisp sits and downs. Ramirez waved them over, his ATV idling beside a stack of detection kits. "Morning, LT. Harlan's greenlit the same route. Your dogs shadow us on leashes. No solos." Hale nodded, falling in with the formation. The air held a crisp edge, the desert's night chill yielding to the sun's first bite. They moved out in convoy, Humvees trailing dust plumes that caught the light like smoke signals. Rex walked at heel, his gait fluid, but Hale noted the subtle tension in his ears, alert, scanning. The wall appeared soon after, its steel slats humming faintly with the vibration of distant traffic from the Mexican highway. Agents deployed cameras and ground sensors, their boots thudding in rhythm as they quartered the sector. Hale kept Rex close, the leader tether between loyalty and protocol. "Seek easy, boy," Hale murmured as they approached the patched section from yesterday. Rex's nose lifted, testing the breeze that whispered through the gaps, carrying hints of creosote, engine exhaust, and something deeper, earthier. The dog didn't freeze immediately. Instead, he circled once, pawing lightly at the base where concrete met slat. Hale knelt, gloved hand sweeping for anomalies, but the surface felt solid, unyielding. Ramirez paused nearby, his scanner beeping negative. Same spot, clean as yesterday. But Rex whined low, insistent, his body angling toward a faint seam barely visible under layers of sealant. Hale's pulse quickened. This was no random hit. He's doubling down. Sir, request to deploy the vapor tracer. It's non-invasive. Ramirez radioed it up the line, his voice crackling over the net. Harlan's response came sharp. Negative. Proceed to next sector. Log the behavior for post-op review. The agent shrugged apologetically, but Hale held position, Rex's whine building to a soft growl, the rare sound of frustration in a dog trained for silence. Torres and Grant exchanged glances, their own animals picking up the unease, shifting on their leads. The standoff drew eyes. An engineer from Tucson HQ, a wiry specialist named Patel, jogged over with a tablet, its screen glowing with seismic data. We've got historical scans, thermal, acoustic, no voids larger than a fist. Your K9's picking up residual, maybe animal scent from the scrub. Hale rose, meeting Patel's gaze levelly. Respectfully, residuals don't lock a Malinois like this. Rex is certified for trace explosives, narcotics, even human remains. If he's committed, we owe it a look. Patel's brow furrowed, but before he could respond, Harlan arrived in a cloud of dust, his tactical vest straining over his frame. The supervisory agent's face was a mask of controlled irritation, the morning sun glinting off his badge. Agents paused their sweeps, forming a wider circle, boots planted, hands on hips, the weight of witnesses settling in. Radios fell silent, save for the static hum. Lieutenant Hale, this is the second alert on a cleared panel. You're disrupting ops. Pull your dog now, or I'll have you sidelined. Rex strained against the lead, his claws scraping the dirt, eyes fixed on the wall, as if willing it to yield. Hale felt the bond pull taut, the years of shared peril, the unspoken pact that had carried them through ambushes and extractions. Obedience was drilled into him, but dismissing Rex felt like betrayal, a fracture in the trust that defined their unit. Sir, with all due respect, Protocol 47B allows handler discretion on sustained alerts. A 5-minute probe, drill a sample, run it through the lab. If negative, my team's off the line for the day. Harlan's clipboard slapped against his thigh, the sound echoing like a reprimand. Discretion ends at my authority. CBP runs this sector. Your SEAL toys are impressive overseas, but here they follow our lead. He turned to Ramirez. Escort them back, and LT, expect a formal report on this interference. The words hung heavy, the circle of agents murmuring, some nodding in agreement, others shifting uncomfortably. Torres stepped forward, voice steady. Chief, Jax corroborated the alert. Multi-dog confirmation ups the priority. Harlan's eyes flashed. Noted, petty officer, but chain is chain. He strode away, radioing command. Incident on Sector 4. SEAL non-compliance. Stand by for escalation. As the team retreated, Hale unclipped Rex momentarily, letting him air out by a creosote bush. The dog's tail drooped slightly, the first sign of dejection Hale had seen. He knelt, rubbing the Malinois' chest. Steady, partner. We're not done. The sun climbed, baking the ground, turning the air thick with heat. Back at the outpost, the debrief turned tense. Harlan's engineers poring over footage, agents whispering about the pushy SEAL. Hale documented every detail in his log. Time, coordinates, Rex's vitals. The denied verify. It was procedural armor, the quiet weapon of the disciplined. Word rippled outward by noon, carried on the outpost's tight-knit net. A junior agent, fresh from academy, approached Hale in the kennel shade, voice low. "Saw the lock. My uncle's a handler up north, says dogs like yours don't false out. Harlan's tough, but maybe HQ." Hale nodded, securing Rex's water bowl. "Appreciate it. We'll see." The dog's ears perked at the exchange, sensing the shift. Inside the command shack, Patel pulled Hale aside during a map review, tablet in hand. "Off record, those old scans? From '08 install? Pre-reinforcement, there was chatter about a stash point. Smugglers bricked something in during construction chaos, but it was legend, unverified." Hale's mind raced. Piecing the fragments, 10 years of misses, buried under bureaucracy. If Rex is onto it, we drill or we risk it staying hidden. Patel hesitated, glancing at the door where Harlan conferred with Brass via secure link. "I'll flag it for audit, but push too hard, LT, and you're the story, not the wall." The afternoon dragged under relentless sun. The team relegated to observation, watching agents run redundant sweeps while Rex paced his pen, restless. Hale felt the reckoning build. Not just a dog's instinct, but a test of institutional blind spots. Loyalty demanded action, duty, patience. As shadows lengthened, he filed an appeal through sealed channels, formal, by the book, requesting joint oversight. The response from base, proceeding. Maintain discipline. Evening brought a storm front, wind rattling tent flaps and carrying the ozone scent of rain. In the ready room, lit by harsh bulbs, the team debriefed quietly. Grant leaned in. "Harlan's report's already up. If it escalates, we're witnesses." Torres added, "And if Rex is right, that changes everything." Hale stared at the wall schematic pinned to the board. Rex's alert point circled in red. The outpost hummed with unspoken friction, the single defiance now public, rippling through ranks and reports. Outside, thunder rumbled, a distant echo of the storm brewing. Hale clipped Rex's lead for a final walk, the dog's steps purposeful in the gathering dark. The bond held firm, a quiet rebellion against the order that sought to silence it. "Comment where you're watching from. I want to know how far stories of courage and integrity can reach." The storm broke just after midnight, rain lashing the outpost tents like suppressed gunfire, turning the gravel paths to slick mud. Hale lay awake on his cot, the canvas walls snapping in the gale. Rex curled at his feet with a low rumble in his throat, sensing the unrest beyond the downpour. The appeal Hale had filed hummed in his mind, a procedural lifeline threaded through SEAL command to CBP Brass. But sleep evaded him, the dog's earlier growl echoing the friction now etched into the day's logs. Outside, sentries paced under ponchos, their boots squelching, radios hissing updates on flooded sectors. The wall stood unyielding, its secrets sodden but intact. Reveille came at 0400, the klaxon piercing the damp air like a call to arms. Hale rose, muscles stiff from the chill, and secured Rex's harness under the tent's dim bulb. The Malinois shook off the night's restlessness, his coat damp but eyes sharp. In the mess tent, steam rose from urns of black coffee, the aroma cutting through the petrichor as the joint team gathered. Agents bleary-eyed, SEAL handlers methodically checking gear. Harlan entered last, his uniform crisp despite the mud, clipboard in hand. No acknowledgement of the prior day's standoff, just the grind of orders. Weather delays sweeps till 0700. Review yesterday's footage. Integration continues as scheduled. Hale poured a mug, the hot ceramic grounding him, and joined Torres and Grant at a scarred table. Their tablets glowed with archived scans, the patched wall section rendered in grainy blues and grays. "Patel's tip checks out," Torres said quietly, zooming on a pre-2014 overlay. "Construction logs show a 3-day blackout during install, unsecured site. Smugglers could have embedded anything small, non-metallic. Rex's nose cuts through that. Grant nodded, stirring his coffee with restrained precision. Appeals in the queue, but Harlan's report paints us as overreach. If it hits the wire, we're explaining to Norfolk. The words settled like the rain's residue on the tent roof. Hale sipped, tasting the bitter edge of contingency. Loyalty to Rex wasn't defiance for its own sake. It was the core of their oath. Protect the team, trust the tools that kept them alive. Dismissing the alert felt like ignoring a compass in fog, a risk to the very order Harlan guarded. By 0600, the rain eased to a drizzle, and the convoy rolled out under leaden skies. Hale drove the lead Humvee, Rex in the passenger well, his head tilted toward the window where mist beaded on the glass. The access road gleamed wet, puddles reflecting the wall's monotonous line. Agents in rain gear fanned out, deploying fresh sensors that beeped faintly against the patter. Ramirez flagged Hale down at the sector's edge, his vest slick with moisture. HQ's auditing the panel per your log. Engineers inbound from Tucson, ETA 0900. Harlan's not thrilled, but Brass wants eyes on it. Hale clipped Rex's lead, the leather slick in his gloved hand. Appreciate the heads up. Rex ready to run it again? The agent glanced at the dog, who sat alert, nostrils flaring at the rain-washed scents. If he locks, we'll have witnesses. But keep it tight. Harlan's watching. The team formed up, boots sinking into softened earth as they approached the site. The wall loomed, water trickling down its slats like veins. The patched seam darker from the storm's soak. Hale unclipped the lead for a controlled search, his voice steady over the drizzle. Seek, Rex. Show us. The Malinois moved forward, nose low, weaving through puddles that splashed his paws. He quartered the area with mechanical focus, pausing at discarded debris, a sodden backpack, a rusted can, dismissing each with a snort. Then, at the seam, he froze again, body rigid, paw lifted as rain dripped from his ears. No whine this time, just that unblinking lock, deeper now, as if the storm had unearthed a fresher trace. Hale knelt, heart steady but pulse quickening, and activated the vapor sampler, a handheld unit humming to life with a soft whir. Alert confirmed. Tracing now. Torres and Grant positioned their dogs nearby, Jax and Scout mirroring the stance, a multi-unit corroboration that turned heads. Agents paused, scanners in hand, the circle widening as word spread over the net. K9 hit on 4 Alpha, SEAL lead. Harlan arrived minutes later, ATV skidding to a halt, his face taut under the hood of his jacket. The drizzle beaded on his glasses as he strode over, engineers trailing with drills and probes. Lieutenant, this is escalation without clearance. Your appeal's pending, not approved. Sir, Hale replied, holding the dog's flank as the sampler beeped, pulling air from the seam. Sustained alert with corroboration. Protocol mandates joint action. Engineers are here, let's verify. The supervisory agent scanned the growing assembly, 24 agents now, plus the Tucson team unloading gear from an unmarked van. Radios crackled with inbound queries from sector command, the moment shifting from private friction to public scrutiny. Harlan's jaw worked, authority tested under the grey sky. A junior engineer, Patel among them, stepped forward with a ground-penetrating radar unit, its screen flickering to life. We'll core a sample, sir. Non-destructive. If negative, we seal and log. Harlan exhaled sharply, the rain masking any tremor in his voice. Proceed, but this is CBP turf. SEALs observe. He turned away, barking into his radio. Command, joint probe initiated. Stand by for results. The order hung, a concession wrapped in control, but the eyes on Hale said otherwise. The handler's persistence had forced the breach. The drill whirred to life, biting into the sealant with a high-pitched grind that echoed off the wall. Dust and water mist sprayed, Rex holding steady inches away, his focus unbroken. Hale monitored the dog's vitals on his wrist unit. Heart rate elevated but controlled, a testament to training. Torres murmured encouragement to Jax, while Grant kept Scout healed, the team a silent bulwark. Agents murmured, some skeptical, others intrigued, the procedural veil lifting as the core sample emerged, a 2-inch cylinder of concrete, damp and unremarkable. Patel inserted it into a field analyzer, the device humming as it scanned for volatiles. The group waited, breath fogging in the chill, the drizzle pattering like impatient fingers. Minutes stretched, the radar screen updating in slow sweeps, no voids, no anomalies. Harlan crossed his arms, a flicker of vindication crossing his features. Then the analyzer chimed. Positive trace. Not explosives, not narcotics, but a synthetic compound. Plastic sheeting, aged, laced with human odorants. Buried 10 years, sealed during that chaotic install, a forgotten migrant cache or worse, evading every scan since. The revelation rippled outward, agents leaning in as Patel read the display. Residual human remains indicator, micro-traces. Could be from a collapse during smuggling. We've missed it all this time. Harlan's clipboard lowered, his gaze shifting to Rex, then Hale. The circle tightened, witnesses to the fracture, a dog's instinct piercing institutional oversight. Document everything, he said, voice level but edged. HQ will want full review. Hale knelt by Rex, rewarding him with a quiet scratch, the bond affirmed in the rain's hush. Good boy, you did it. The Malinois leaned in, tail flicking once, the weight of legacy settling, not in glory but in the quiet reform this would spark. Revised protocols, cross-training mandates. The wall, scarred anew by the drill mark, stood as testament, the single defiance yielding to truth, duty and conscience aligned at last. As the team packed gear, the drizzle lifting to reveal a clearing sky, Hale felt the ripple extend. Reports would climb chains, careers touched, the outpost's vigilance sharpened. Rex walked at heel, purposeful. The secret unearthed a step toward justice in the rigid lines of command. The morning's light broke through, gilding the slats, a subtle promise of transformation amid the enduring divide. The afternoon sun pierced the clouds like a spotlight on an interrogation, casting harsh shadows across the outpost's command shack. Hale stood at attention inside the prefab room, the air thick with the scent of damp concrete and cooling electronics. Rex waited in the adjacent kennel, his paws clicking softly on the wire floor as he paced, sensing the shift in his handler's rhythm. The discovery at the wall had ignited a chain reaction, reports cascading up from Harlan's terse dispatch to Tucson HQ, then to Washington liaisons. What started as a K9 alert now loomed as an institutional oversight, a decade's blind spot exposed by a SEAL's persistence. Harlan paced behind a scarred metal desk, his uniform jacket unbuttoned for the first time Hale had seen, revealing a sweat-dampened shirt. Flanking him were 2 investigators from CBP's Office of Professional Responsibility, Agent Kessler, a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s with a notebook and a recorder, and her partner Ruiz, broad-shouldered and silent, arms crossed. The room's fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, syncing with the low hum of the air conditioner struggling against the desert's residual heat. Maps of the border sector pinned to the walls bore fresh annotations, red circles around the drilled seam, timestamps from the morning probe. "Lieutenant Hale," Kessler began, her voice even, professional, like a briefing officer dissecting a failed op. "Walk us through your actions from the initial alert. Every detail, why you appealed, why you didn't stand down immediately." Hale met her gaze steadily, his hands clasped behind his back, the posture drilled into him from Bud S. The weight of the moment pressed in, not just scrutiny, but the quiet vindication of Rex's nose. "Ma'am, Rex locked on the panel during the first sweep, 0630 yesterday. Standard protocol for sustained alert. Document, request verify. Supervisory Agent Harlan denied, citing prior scans. I logged it, appealed through sealed channels per Joint Ops guidelines. This morning, post-storm, He locked again, corroborated by petty officers Torres and Grant's dogs. Engineers confirmed the trace, synthetic polymers with human odorants, sealed circa 2014. Ruiz leaned forward, flipping through a tablet of footage. Grainy drone shots of Rex frozen by the wall, the drill whirring, the analyzer's chime. You pushed against direct orders. Harlan's report notes non-compliance twice. In a cross-agency op, that's a line. Explain the rationale. Hale's jaw tightened fractionally, the only tell in his disciplined stance. Outside, the wind carried faint echoes of agents securing the site, yellow tape fluttering around the panel, engineers sealing the core hole with fresh sealant. Rex's whine filtered through the thin wall, a subtle anchor. Sir, the rationale is trust in certified assets. Rex's certification includes trace detection beyond standard CBP calibrations, explosives, contraband, remains. Dismissing a multi-dog alert risked perpetuating the anomaly. My oath prioritizes mission integrity over deference. Kessler jotted a note, her pen scratching like claws on gravel. Harlan stopped pacing, his eyes narrowing. Your integrity disrupted my sector for hours. Resources pulled from live patrols. If this was residual old debris, it's a false positive that could erode confidence in K9 programs. The door creaked open then, admitting Ramirez with a stack of printouts, his face neutral but eyes flicking to Hale in quiet solidarity. He placed the analyzer readout on the desk. Lab-confirmed traces of degraded polyethylene, consistent with body bags or packaging from a smuggling incident, buried during the wall's chaotic build phase. No active threat, but evidence of a human cost overlooked for 10 years. Perhaps a migrant trapped in a rushed tunnel collapse or contraband laced with desperation's remnants. Ruiz scanned the papers, his expression shifting from skepticism to calculation. This changes the audit. HQ's ordering a full structural review. GPR sweeps on adjacent panels, historical logs from 08 to 14. Your dog's hit could rewrite protocols for residual detection. Hale nodded once, the room's tension easing like a held breath released. But Kessler pressed on, recorder whirring. And the defiance? Witnesses say you held position after Harlan's second order. Insubordination, even justified, carries weight. Reprimand, reassignment. The question hung, testing the moral core. Obedience as the bedrock of command, yet conscience as its unseen enforcer. Hale thought of Rex's unyielding stance, the bond that had mirrored his own. Ma'am, it wasn't defiance. It was advocacy within chain. SEAL training emphasizes handler discretion on alerts. Joint Ops Memo 2022 integrates that with CBP. I documented every step to protect the mission, not undermine it. Harlan exhaled, sinking into a chair, the clipboard finally set aside. The investigators exchanged a glance, Ruiz murmuring into his radio. Forwarding prelims to DC. Recommend commendation pending review. Kessler stood, pocketing her notebook. We'll reconvene in 48 hours. Lieutenant, your team stays on light duty. Observation only. But expect testimony. This isn't just about one panel. It's institutional. As they filed out, the door sealing with a pneumatic hiss, Harlan lingered, his posture deflating slightly. You were right, Hale. Doesn't make it easy. The admission was quiet, laced with the reluctance of a man whose authority had been the wall itself, unbreached until now. Hale saluted crisply, the motion precise, then stepped into the corridor where Torres and Grant waited, their dogs heeled at their sides. Jax nudged Torres's leg, sensing the undercurrent, while Scout sat statue still. "How'd it go?" Grant asked, voice low, amid the shuffle of agents outside. "Scrutiny," Hale replied, clipping Rex's lead as the dog bounded over, wet nose bumping his hand. "But the trace holds. Full audit incoming." The group moved to the shaded yard, the sun dipping toward the horizon, painting the outpost in amber hues. Rex leaned against Hale's boot, the warmth a reminder of the loyalty that had tipped the scales. Word had spread beyond the fence, leaks to border sector nets, whispers of a seal miracle dog unearthing ghosts. A local reporter from Nogales had called the outpost line, screened by comms, but the story simmered, poised for public light. In the kennel block, as Hale brushed mud from Rex's coat, the rhythmic strokes steadying his thoughts, Ramirez joined them, leaning on the gate. Brass is spinning it positive. Cross-training boost. Your push sparked it. Harlan's drafting a memo. Mandatory K9 integration for audits. Hale paused, the curry comb still in hand. And the cost? The agent shrugged, eyes on the dogs settling into their pens. Paperwork, reviews, but lives overlooked for a decade. That's the real cost. You and that Malinois, you gave it a voice. Evening fell with the precision of a blackout curtain, generators kicking in, as stars emerged over the wall's silhouette. Hale sat in the ready room, logging the debrief. Vitals, witness statements, the ethical tightrope walked. The reckoning was public now. Emails pinging from Norfolk, commendation drafts circulating. Yet vulnerability lingered in the quiet. A handler's hand trembling slightly over the keyboard, the weight of ripples through careers, the institution bending toward reform. Rex curled nearby, breath even, his presence a silent testament. Outside, patrols resumed under floodlights, the walls hum unbroken but forever altered. Hale closed the laptop, the screen's glow fading, and scratched the dog's ears. The defiance had yielded truth, loyalty forging a legacy in the rigid lines of duty, one alert at a time. The floodlights along the border wall cast elongated shadows that danced like specters across the outpost's perimeter, their harsh glow cutting through the twilight haze. Hale stood at the edge of the staging area, his boots planted in the cooling gravel, Rex at his side, with ears perked toward the hum of incoming vehicles. It was 1900 hours, 2 days since the probe's revelation, and the air carried the metallic tang of diesel mixed with the faint, lingering ozone from the storm. The institutional machinery had ground into motion, audits expanding from one panel to a 5-mile stretch. Engineers from CBP headquarters in Washington descending like a tactical insertion team. Harlan's memos circulated through secure channels, mandating K9 cross-training for all border sectors. But the scrutiny on Hale lingered, a quiet undercurrent in every briefing glance. Inside the command shack, the room felt smaller under the weight of brass. Regional Director Elena Vasquez presided from the head of the table, her uniform impeccable, silver insignia catching the overhead lights. Flanking her were the OPR investigators, Kessler and Ruiz, their tablets open to timelines and depositions. Hale sat midway down, posture rigid, his hands folded on the scarred laminate surface. Torres and Grant flanked him, their expressions neutral masks honed from debriefs in far deadlier theaters. Rex waited outside, secured in the transport crate, his soft whines filtering through the vents, a reminder of the bond that had precipitated this tribunal. Vasquez cleared her throat, the sound amplified in the confined space. Lieutenant Hale, this hearing reviews the events of October 12th through 14th at Nogales Outpost. Your actions exposed a critical oversight in structural verification protocols, confirming residual human traces sealed during 2014 reinforcements. However, the manner, persistent advocacy against Supervisory Agent Harlan's directives, raises questions of chain of command integrity. Your statement. Hale leaned forward slightly, his voice measured, each word chosen with the precision of a rifle sight. Ma'am, my intent was mission enhancement, not disruption. Rex's alert initiated under Joint Ops Guidelines, Section 3. 2. Handler discretion on certified detections. Denials were logged, appeals filed per SEAL CBP memorandum. The multi-dog corroboration and subsequent trace validation affirm the necessity. Deferring could have perpetuated the anomaly indefinitely. Kessler interjected, her recorder capturing the exchange with a steady red light. Yet witnesses report a 17-minute hold after the second order, halting sector sweeps. Insubordination, even procedural, erodes operational trust. How do you reconcile that with your oath? The room's air conditioner hummed, a low counterpoint to the tension. Hale met her eyes, recalling the rain-slicked wall, Rex's unyielding stance mirroring his own. Vulnerability flickered beneath the discipline, a subtle tightening in his chest, the human cost of the traces unearthed, lives reduced to echoes in concrete, overlooked in the press of daily vigilance. Ma'am, reconciliation lies in the outcome. The oath binds us to protect, not just obey blindly. Rex's certification, 99, 2% accuracy in residuals, demanded action. I balanced deference with duty, documenting to safeguard all parties. Ruiz scrolled through exhibits, projecting a grainy still of the analyzer readout onto the wall screen. The synthetic traces glowed in digital blue, annotated with lab timestamps. This has prompted a directive. All pre-2015 panels rescan with integrated K9 teams. Your unit's role expands, rotational embed starting next quarter, but personal accountability remains. Harlan? The supervisory agent shifted in his seat, his earlier rigidity softened by the audit's scope. Director, initial resistance was protocol-driven. The lieutenant's persistence, while straining, yielded results. I recommend formal recognition over reprimand, perhaps a joint commendation. Vasquez nodded, her pen tapping rhythmically against a folder stamped "Classified." Outside, the wind whispered through the chain link, carrying the distant bark of Scout from the kennel. The hearing stretched, testimonies layering like sediment. Ramirez affirming the probe's efficiency, Patel detailing the historical gaps in scans. Torres spoke briefly, her voice steady. As a handler, we train for instincts machines miss. Hale's call honored that. Grant added weight, his words clipped. SEAL ethos adapt within command. He did. By 2100, the room emptied, decisions deferred to DC review. Hale stepped into the cooling night, the stars a vast, indifferent canopy over the wall's silhouette. Rex bounded from the crate, nose bumping Hale's knee in ritual greeting, the Malinois' warmth cutting through the chill. The team walked the perimeter trail, boots crunching on damp gravel, the floodlights painting their shadows long and intertwined. That was tight, Torres said, Jax heeling beside her. Vasquez didn't shut it down. Grant grunted agreement, Scout's tags jingling softly. Brass sees the value now. But Hale, if it sticks as commendation, your log goes unit-wide. Legacy stuff. Hale scratched Rex's ears, the dog's eyes reflecting the lights like polished obsidian. Legacy. The word evoked the quiet ripples, revised manuals arriving by encrypted packet, training modules incorporating SEAL K9 protocols. Agents at the outpost had already adapted, extra leashes in patrol kits, mock alerts run at dawn. Harlan's memo, circulated that afternoon, framed it as collaborative evolution, crediting the joint effort without naming names. Yet whispers persisted in the ready room, the SEAL who wouldn't yield, the dog who sniffed out history's ghosts. Deeper in, the moral tension uncoiled slowly. Hale paused at an overlook, the wall stretching into darkness, its slats a barrier both physical and procedural. The traces, degraded polymers from a smuggling era, hinted at untold stories. A handler's trembling hand over a report, a family's unanswered wait. Rex sat alert, sensing the pause, his paw tapping Hale's boot. The bond was the anchor. Loyalty unmarred by ranks or reviews. You started this, boy, Hale murmured, the words lost to the wind. Worth every stare. Back in the tent, under the canvas's dim lantern, Hale reviewed his personal log, entries in precise script, times, cents, decisions. The cost emerged in the margins, sleep fractured by what-ifs, the vulnerability of standing against the tide. But redemption glinted too. emails from Norfolk praising the integration model, a quiet nod from Vasquez as she left. You've given us tools to see clearer. The institution, rigid as the wall, bent incrementally, reforms seeding like cracks in concrete. Ramirez joined them later, bearing lukewarm coffee from the mess. Heard the hearing wrapped neutral. DC, fast-tracking the directive. Your dog's in the preamble. He glanced at Rex, curled by Hale's cot, breath even in repose. 10 years missed. Makes you think about what else is buried. Hale sipped the brew, its bitterness grounding. Makes us better at digging. The outpost settled into night routine, generators thrumming, sentries' footsteps echoing, radios murmuring clearances. The public reckoning had crested, not in fanfare, but in procedural shifts, careers realigned. Harlan's office light burned late, drafting addendums. Agents in the barracks discussed K9 rotations with newfound respect. As Hale dimmed the lantern, Rex shifted closer, head on his boot. The chapter closed on the tribunal's edge, but the arc extended, Hale's integrity a catalyst, rippling through chains to foster a vigilance tempered by conscience. The wall hummed faintly outside, its secrets yielded, the bond between man and dog a quiet force reshaping the line. If this story already has your respect, hit the like button. It helps the story of Marcus Hale reach those who still believe in honor. The first light of dawn filtered through the outpost's chain-link fence, painting the gravel in muted golds as Hale led Rex on their final perimeter walk. The air held a crisp bite, the desert's overnight chill clinging to the slats of the border wall like dew on steel. It had been 3 weeks since the probe's revelation, the institutional gears turning with the deliberate grind of a well-oiled machine. Hale's boots crunched softly, syncing with Rex's padded steps, the Malinois' harness jingling faintly under the weight of his vest. The bond felt lighter now, unburdened by the standoff's tension, though the echoes lingered in every briefing Hale attended back at Coronado. The reforms had unfolded methodically, a ripple effect from that rain-slicked morning. CBP's directive, codenamed Operation Echo Trace, mandated K9 integration across all southwestern sectors. SEAL handlers embedded quarterly, their dogs calibrated for residual scans alongside standard patrols. Manuals updated overnight, pages added on multi-species corroboration and handler discretion, Hale's logs cited anonymously in the appendices. Harlan's outpost became a pilot site. Agents like Ramirez running joint drills at dusk, their scanners humming in tandem with Rex's nose. No fanfare, just the quiet evolution of protocol. Boots on wet concrete during simulations, radios crackling with cross-verified alerts. Hale paused at the wall's shadow, his gloved hand resting on Rex's head, feeling the steady rise and fall of the dog's breathing. The drilled panel stood patched anew, a subtle scar amid the seamless line, now monitored by embedded sensors that beeped data to Tucson every hour. The traces unearthed, degraded polymers laced with human remnants, had prompted a discreet forensic dig. No full recovery, just confirmation of a long-buried tragedy from the wall's early days, a smuggler's misstep sealed by haste and oversight. Families notified through shadowed channels, closure granted in whispers. Hale's commendation arrived via encrypted packet from Joint Command, a Navy Cross citation for exemplary initiative in interagency cooperation, Harlan's endorsement attached, his words measured. Lieutenant Hale's adherence to mission elevated our collective vigilance, yet the cost etched deeper. In the vulnerability that surfaced during quiet hours, Hale's sleep fractured still, nights replaying the hearing's fluorescent glare, Kessler's recorder capturing his rationale like a deposition under fire. Reassignment rumors swirled, his team pulled from Pacific rotations for extended border embeds, but they settled into opportunity, mentorship roles, training cadre for incoming handlers. Torres and Grant had already led sessions, Jax and Scout demonstrating alerts to wide-eyed recruits, their tails flicking in the training yard's dust. Hale felt the weight in his chest ease, replaced by purpose, the moral choice that had tested him now, forging paths for others. Back at the outpost for the handoff briefing, the command shack buzzed with restrained energy. Vasquez stood at the map table, her pointer tracing revised patrol grids. The room filled with agents and handlers in desert fatigues, coffee steam curling from mugs. Echo Trace yields first results. 3 ancillary hits in adjacent sectors, all residuals cleared. Integration reduces false negatives by 20%. Her gaze settled on Hale, a nod of acknowledgement. Lieutenant, your unit's protocols anchor this. We'll rotate you through Yuma next quarter. Teach the line. Hale saluted crisply, the motion fluid from years of discipline. Understood, ma'am. Rex and the team are ready. Outside, Ramirez approached as the group dispersed, his vest slung over one shoulder, the sun warming the concrete. Heard about the citation. Deserved. That dog's a legend now, agents calling him Wallbreaker in the barracks. Hale managed a tight smile, clipping Rex's lead as the Malinois sat alert, eyes scanning the horizon. He's just doing his job. We all are. The words carried the restraint of their world. No bravado, just the steady pulse of duty. Ramirez extended a hand, grip firm. If you embed here again, we've got a spot in the kennels. Taught us to listen closer, to the quiet ones. The convoy rolled out by 0800, Humvees kicking up dust plumes that settled like veils over the wall. Hale drove, Rex in the well, head on pause as the landscape blurred, cacti giving way to open scrub, the barrier receding in the rear view. Radio chatter filled the cab, Norfolk confirming their return. A new op packet en route. The transformation settled in layers. Hale no longer just a handler, but a symbol in classified briefs, his story dissected in officer academies as a case study in ethical advocacy. Recruits would learn of the lieutenant who held the line, not against enemies, but against complacency, his loyalty to a four-legged partner sparking systemic sight. En route to base, Hale pulled over at a wayside overlook, the desert stretching vast under a cloudless sky. He unclipped Rex, letting the dog roam a short leash amid the creosote, the wind carrying scents of sage and distant rain. The Malinois quartered instinctively, pausing at a rock outcrop before returning, nose bumping Hale's knee. In that moment, the vulnerability surfaced, a hand trembling slightly as Hale scratched behind Rex's ears. The bond's depth, a quiet anchor amid the reform's breadth. Careers had shifted. Harlan promoted to regional training lead, his memos now praising interbranch trust. Kessler's OPR team expanded to audit legacy sites nationwide. Hale's reflection came in the hum of the idling engine, the radio static fading to silence. The institution had learned, bending without breaking, mandatory ethics modules added to CBP onboarding, simulations replaying the Nogales standoff with actors and props. His own legacy rippled through letters from handlers across branches. Your log saved my team's alert last week. No medals pinned in ceremony, just the enduring mark of integrity, etched in protocols and partnerships. As they resumed the drive, the sun climbing to midday blaze, Hale felt the arc complete. Rex settled, breath even. The wall's secrets yielded to vigilance reborn. The single act of defiance had transformed into quiet strength, a testament to conscience within command. The dog's nose, the handler's resolve, reshaping the rigid horizon one measured step at a time. In the end, the border stood not as an unbreakable divide, but as a line redrawn by loyalty's unerring guide. Subscribe for more stories of loyalty, courage, and justice within the ranks. Thank you for watching the case of the SEAL's dog froze at the border wall. Seconds later, he detected what agents had missed for 10 years. See you in the next one.